Right, today we're going to talk about planet, any planet, how they're formed and what it takes to get life on them. I asked lots of questions, so anyway this should only take half an hour, this one, if not less. Basically, as we all know, Big Bang, stuff starts adding together, gets gravitational fields, attracts other stuff in, and you get whatever was rotating around the heaviest object at a certain distance and a certain speed tends to stay there. So it's like it's all settled down and you get planets round the sun, and they can all be different materials. Ours are all mainly rocks. Now rocks are no good for life without water, and generally when you've got something with a lot of volcanic activity like we've had and a liquid core and all that, you don't get water much. If you do, it's all in the atmosphere. So anyway, generally, to start, most of the planets that are on the information system, 450 odd of them, probably more than that, I was shown them all on a big screen, and I sort of quartered it and counted however many there were there, which was about 100, times it by 4 and added 50, because there's lots of other little outside ones too. So I wasn't given a figure as such, I just guessed it by counting. I did put in the book 250, but this I think I did, I can't remember. I haven't bothered looking, to tell you the truth. The book's done and gone, and it's on Amazon, and I'm not pushing it because I'm telling you what's in it here, basically, so you don't have to buy it. So anyway, yeah, so you have to be hit by asteroids containing, the idea is to get as many elements on a planet as possible, and it has to be at exactly the right distance from your heat source, which to give you some idea, if water can be a gas, a liquid and a solid, you're in the right place, basically. To a smaller planet won't have that, and to a bigger planet tend to be hot and rocky. Well, like I say, everything's different. There's so many things depending on it all that like for instance, they've I did hear, I think, that they found volcanic rocks on the moon, and some say we were hit by something very big, and that the moon is the addition of all the material that was thrown up into space from the hit, which would definitely say yes, that's why the volcanic rocks are there. But right, so we've got all the elements in one place, and if you can imagine, I don't know whether I've got a container, yeah, if you can imagine adding all the ingredients for life into this glass and there's nothing happening, it'll just sit there. So in other words, if you've got a bowl with flour in it and you don't stir it, that'll sit there for millions of years without being touched. Same with a lot of our planets. Rocks have been sitting on the surface of some planets for millions of years, basically. Nobody's ever touched them, obviously. So yeah, so once you've got all the ingredients for life in there, nothing's going to happen unless you stir it. And then you start getting the elements that like each other joining up, and then they make simple molecules by joining together, and they make complicated molecules, and then after a while you'll get something looking like DNA. If you keep adding the right atomic particles or the same molecules together, you will eventually get something which could turn into life. But like you say, like we know already, the Earth's 2 billion years old, and you know, when did life start? And it started with the very, very smallest of animals, single cell. But you can imagine even an amoeba, which is a single cell animal, how, you know, if you look at it under a microscope, it is incredibly complicated, even though it's only single cell. So you can imagine the amount of stuff that has to go past, and that's all got to be stirred up by something. Now, we were lucky, we got the moon. So other planets with everything ready to go, obviously that'll just sit there because it's not being stirred up by anything. But we've got the moon going round, we're rotating, creating hot and cold next to the sun, which creates wind and other things. So everything's moving about, as you can hear. And the sun's obviously doing the tidal thing with the sea, which is mixing it up. That's all being mixed up because it's being blown. So the more mixing you can get going on, the more likely those molecules are to pass each other. And then the end of molecules think, oh, he looks okay, bang. It's all the right nodules or whatever they're called, nodes, in all the right places. I haven't been into that, but I'd like to talk to a scientist about it, because that's definitely how it happened. Now, if you're talking about, you know, all you people who think this planet was created by a being, you could be right, because very, very early visitors may have seeded various bits of life. But again, those bits of life have to come from somewhere. And the probe already had that in its computer. It didn't have to ask the mothership or anything. It already knew that it was just literally the passing of atoms, then molecules, then strings of molecules, complex molecules, until eventually you come to something which springs into life. So that's how it works. But we might have got a head start by somebody dumping something here. You never know. Or coming from space. I think somebody said that if you dry an amoeba, it can sit around for millions of years until it hits water again, and then it'll come back to life. But again, I'd like scientists to comment. I don't want unqualified people commenting, because not only, you know, you can attack me for this, but actually you got the wrong person. Even though I saw it and I reported it, people have been through all this information, including the government, apparently. So that's your planet. So once you've got, it has to sit there for obviously a long time without any outside interference or Yellowstones, because like I say, we've had 4 extinctions, and Greta thinks we're in the 5th one, if that's the way you spell her name, I don't know. But let me tell you, you know, we've got to listen to these people. But I'll tell you why we should listen. Nothing obviously sits still forever. You know, you could get millions of years before suddenly we're hit by something, which apparently they've got satellites watching space to see and mapping stuff to see where it's going. But quite a few times, even in the last year, they've seen stuff big enough to cause chaos here going past us only a few 100,000 miles away. So, and that one that came in Russia, if you have a look at YouTube on the Russian, just put Russian meteorite in and you get it. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. But yeah, so right, so yeah, now once we're here and we've become intelligent, you've got to act fast. Obviously we've got things bogging us down that the other planets got rid of probably first thing, and that's money, the country system and religion. Anything that um, basically limits a human being has got to be eliminated. I'll tell you now. I'll tell you how all that works. All you people who are patriotic and nationalist, there is an easy get-out clause for you to make you feel probably even more proud. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about all you religious people. There are the certain. It's basically, there's a lot of stories there that have happened. I mean, Jesus probably was a person. The person he's telling us about didn't actually exist. That was never, although they said, oh, he made him in his own image. Yeah, the image might have been there, but he came from somewhere else. You know, he was a spaceman or something created by a mothership. It was not a being sitting up in the sky watching us, basically. Although some say the Star of David was definitely a spaceship, and I believe that. I think that was following them to make sure that their artificially inseminated woman, Mary, was going to be okay, as you would. You know, if you'd artificially inseminated a mouse in a laboratory, you'd be looking at him to make sure he was okay. So it's like that. So yeah, the lots of religious things. You know, there are ways out for religious people. Like, for instance, the one where Tibetan monks, when they're in solitary confinement, can make themselves, there's a name for it, can make themselves a being, can create one in their own head to keep them company. Mine is a 6-foot Amazonian naked woman. But anyway, that's another thing. But basically, you know, he or she is watching them, and in fact, because of the way the human mind works, they can actually become naughty, and you can't control them. Now there's a funny one. That tells the monk that he's not in control of his own mind, which I thought was quite incredible. Back to the subject, planet. So we're sitting there. We've grown. Here I am standing on the planet. Lots of other people standing on it as well, wondering what to do. And believe me, we don't know what to do yet. We're all thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to die in it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I've got a bucket list. I'm going to do this. Yeah. So, but it's not going to be here forever. Like I say, 4 mass extinctions. The one that killed the dinosaurs only left small animals. Chickens being a hand-me-down from the dinosaur age, just that their scales have turned into feathers. So yeah, so really we've got to do something before the next Yellowstone, the next Krakatoa, the next meteorite strike. There's many other things numbering in the 100 that could finish us off. As we've seen, coronavirus. You know, you only need one of those to blow around the world and last longer than 14 days, which they will eventually, if we don't do something about it. There's the DNA problem, where a lot of our DNA is now useless, and that will cause all kinds of problems in the future. So I've said that yesterday, I think, on the DNA video. So we've got to get going. Now, obviously, we know, looking at other suns, what they're in various stages of forming and getting old and dying. Now, our sun will expand past us. So everything you see around you, including yourself, is going to be burnt to nothing if we just sit here and do nothing. Now, the Life Star, I've made sure it's after planet, which is our lifeboat off the planet should something happen. I'll show you what they did and how they do that. So yeah, there's that. So we're not here forever, basically. Doesn't matter even if we were squeaky clean with the climate. I mean, the climate's going to get us eventually, and the more rubbish we put in the air, the faster that's going to be. That's pretty obvious. I mean, like I was saying in, I could say that on this this video actually. In the 70s, when I was a kid, we had a defined summer and a winter. We generally had snow before Christmas. We definitely had snow after Christmas, sometimes to the point, this is in England, you know, in the south of England, so it was, we used to have to send somebody from our village out with a sack to walk up to the bakery 5 miles away, buy a load of loaves of bread and come back and distribute them. You know, the snow was that bad. Couldn't get anything in or out. Now, today, we're in February, we haven't had any snow. Okay, we've had you know, the odd smattering the last few years, but there certainly isn't. There's not that heat from the sun like there used to be. There might be in some parts of the world, but certainly when there's more, when you get global warming, there's more, obviously more water has evaporated, so you get this haze, and obviously a lot more rain and a lot more wind, because the air is heating up quicker in various places and having to move to the place where the pressure's gone down. So you get what we'll see, you won't see anything coming hotter really, but because you won't notice that. But what you'll see is much more rain, much more wind, therefore more flooding, more tornadoes, hurricanes. They're lettering the hurricanes from A to Z. There's that many of them in the Atlantic. So, and they do great damage, which is another reason why when I get to the building section, I'll show you how we can overcome all that, just by building underground. But anyway, so yeah, that's what we're going to have to expect. So we're going to have to go underground eventually, whether we like it or not, because everything on the surface is just going to either be blown away or will rot because of the liquid in the air. So yeah, that's our planet. So Greta is right to say what she's saying, and you know, if you can imagine, every single exhaust molecule, every single fireplace, wood or coal from London or wherever, or the whole country, all the Industrial Revolution smoke hasn't ever left the planet. It's all still here. It might have been dissolved and come down as acid rain, but an underground house doesn't worry about acid rain, or wind, or rain, or any other rain, or snow, or anything. So I'll tell you the underground house bit when I get to, I think I'm not sure what it's called. It's to do with buildings. So that's the planet for you. So basically, it's looking okay at the minute, but if we don't do something or don't change our ways a bit, it's going to get bad. For instance, packaging. Now, on other planets, they've got, if you can imagine, quite a well-made box which has a lid with a seal. And when it gets filled with whatever you want, cereal for instance, cereal will be in a box about that big, and it's completely symmetrical, so it's all the sides are the same, the bottom is the same, the top's the same, all the same size. So it can be packed basically. They're all square, we don't have round jars, or I'm not saying we do, but they don't have round jars. They've all developed this one system. And then if you want something smaller, it's always an eighth or a half, so it always fills the same amount of space, and then there'll be a big one which is double. You know, there's this series, but they're all not fit within one another, but in a big box you won't have any empty space. So, and that means the air doesn't get round it, and you don't get mould. Your packaging is completely you know, no wasted space basically. Then there's a lid that goes on which has got a rubber seal or a silicone seal or whatever, and on the last bit of the production process, after it's been filled, it goes into a vacuum chamber. The lid goes on. When it comes out the other side, there's a vacuum inside, So there is no gases or nothing like that. It's a vacuum, and when you get it home, when you need it, you've got a little valve, and you press that valve and it lets the air in. So they have to be quite strong. And then if there's a supermarket situation, which a lot of them haven't got, they're all deliveries, you take it back with you, or in case of a delivery, the delivery man picks up the empty, clean. You know, you have to clean it out. So everything is absolutely 100% reused. If it gets a bit damaged, that goes back, because it's made of the same material as all the other ones, it goes back. Now, if you're in a supermarket situation, one thing I did see which was quite amazing is they've got a chip in them, in each one. Now that chip's loaded with whatever's gone into it at the end of the production line on the factory. If you get your mobile device and go like that with the camera, it comes to life with all its drawings and things. Although you go like that, it's just grey. The ones I saw were grey. Go back like that, comes to life with all the what's in it, and you don't have to know ingredients. There's no ingredients on these things, because if you buy it and eat it, your mobile knows that. Well, there's not buying. There isn't any buying. You grab it and take it. Basically, the mobile knows you've got it, and it tells you what vitamins you need, which ones you've had a lot of, just by what you've eaten. A bit like the diets do today, but much more elaborate than that. Anyway, so that's, I'm not sure whether that's coming up. I'll have to put that in one of the... But that's how they deal with their waste. Anyway, there isn't any waste. Everything gets taken back. Most people don't cook at home. Well, most... I'm not going to say aliens, because they're not really alien. They're just people from other planets. They either go to restaurants with their friends. The particular planet that I kept getting examples from by the probe, which they looked sort of kind of similar to us, but and had sort of the similar social things like going out with friends, or you get a takeaway. So nobody had a kitchen as such, unless you wanted to create food. But rather than say on your mobile, I want a kitchen, the kitchen would turn up, but you wouldn't be allowed to buy the food for it until you had passed a chef's course, or the basic chef's course, so that nothing's wasted. Because you make buns for the first time and think, oh, they're rubbish, throw them in the bin. You know, so there isn't any waste. Yeah, so that's I think that's all I can say about that at the minute. We've got 23 minutes, so I need to get to about half an hour. So yeah, just recapping that, there is an awful lot of stuff that's got to happen before life. Give you some idea, 450 planets on the universal language system, then 5,000 odd in various stages of development, some right out here, very, very developed. They haven't had any mass extinctions, basically. They've been allowed to propagate and develop without any hindrances. Yeah, so then you mustn't be hit by anything for years. I mean, we here, the planet was covered in vegetation, and like I said in my last video, Ethiopians are probably the best example. Just used to stand, no fat, thin, nice thin, tall, stand up, pick an apple, pick something from a tree and eat it anytime they wanted, so they didn't have to store fat. It's only when we got the Ice Age, the last people living were between 400 and 2,000 in North Africa. I think Tunisia, Ethiopia, somewhere around there anyway. You know, the ice gets to there, the biggest bit, the warmest bit, doesn't get much ice on it, that's where everyone lived. And then as it receded, we receded with it. So yeah, and then we started eating meat because there wasn't any vegetation. You had to eat meat, you know, because our appendix, as you know, is this big. Used to be that big. So that big. Can't see, can you? So, or even, you know, various sizes, depending on how much vegetation that area of human ate. So yeah, so now ours is only small. There's another thing it can go if we don't need it. Yeah. So that's it really for planet. Like I say, quite a lot has to happen. You have to have something to stir the soup. Add water, an asteroid, if you haven't got water already. And there's probably lots of other minerals that wouldn't exist on just a water planet. So you have to have this right temperature, you know. The other thing is, quickly, our metallic core stops the sun's radiation. It goes round the planet. Some of it gets to us, yes. But if we didn't have that metallic core with a big magnetic field for it to go round, it'd be hitting us directly. No life can survive when you're in that situation. So you're going to have a metallic core and a heavy gravitational field like we've got. As you know, with lightning, when you get a streak of lightning, the gap, I don't know how big the gap is, but there's a gap formed of a vacuum. Now the thunder is that gap shutting. So you can imagine the pressure down here for the weight of air with being pulled down by gravity to make that bang. Must be terrific. So yes, we have got a big gravitational field compared to other places, but it's completely related to how much matter on the planet, basically. Okay, we're there, I think. I better go. Okay, thanks a lot. Next video is the Life Star.